So today we're going to talk about some mining loadouts. We're going to use the website here at regolith.rocks to do so. You can get there, just put it in your browser, type it in, go. Once we're here, we're going to go to mining loadouts, and as you can see, we can pick. It's got various things on here that we can use. My loadouts where you can actually save specific loadouts. Goes over all the stats of the lasers. You can actually look at everything to do with the modules from the active modules, and then down below this line will be all the inactive ones, the passive ones they call. For the calculator, we can actually go in here. We can select what type of vehicle we're using. So we're going to go ahead and pick Prospector. And then we're going to look at it and see this is what the default Prospector would come with, or the rented one if that's what you're using, following along the videos. So we've got the Arbor MH1. It comes with no module, and unfortunately, the rented one you cannot add one. We've got minimum power, maximum power, range, and that's basically the minimum range or optimal range. We've got max range, and we've got your resistance, instability, overcharge, cluster modifier, and the overcharge is basically just like if you were to actually overcharge the rock. Let's see, inert, how much we can filter out, charge rate, charge window, shatter damage. Like if you actually overcharge the rock and it blows, that's what damage percentage it's going to use. And then total extraction power. So this only comes into play if you're, well, I mean, obviously it shows the extraction power for the arbor, but you can actually see theoretically on the mole, per se, it'll actually show you combined for all three lasers. So if we were to change this one and choose a helix, for example, or if we go back to using just the default. So, all right, so what we're going to be looking at is what is the best loadout. So theoretically, you could take the Arbor MH1, do about 5-6K rocks on selling the belt, doesn't matter where. If you go ahead and add in a saber, you can actually take that because it'll actually decrease the amount of resistance. So that helps to offset that resistance issue that we have with the arbor. We should probably go over what some of these lasers do. So just for argument's sake, so eliminate the stores for right now. So the Arbor MH1, which is the default one, has a cost of 1.5K. And it's free when you get it, obviously, when you get the Prospector. So optimal range, it has the best optimal range, or the distance, of pretty much all of them. It has actually the least amount of power if you look, because in the game it actually has 5% minimum, if I remember right. And then the minute max power. Extraction power, I'm not going to worry too much about because you're going to be able to extract the rocks regardless of what the power is. I think the extraction power just tells you how fast it's going to do it, really. But you can see quite a swing in power differences here. So if we actually want to, so power wise, once you get past the arbor, and not counting the helix, which is kind of an outlier, they're all pretty similar in this range. Which are the three that people usually pick most. And then of course the Lancehead, but because of the negative they give to the charge window here, a lot of people have stopped using the Lancehead, even though it used to be the most popular. But we're going to focus on what we've got for now. So for now, we've got the Arbor. Gives you 25 plus 25% resistance. So whatever the resistance on that rock is, it's going to increase it by that. Anything with a plus increases it. Anything with a minus should decrease it in this window here. So as you can see, most of these are pretty similar. This is usually the range most people are going to fall into. You can use a helix because you're like, well, why wouldn't I use the helix? The power is significantly greater than everything else. Well, the problem is this right here. Even though it gives you much greater power, it also gives you a much smaller green window when you're trying to break rocks. So we want to kind of try to avoid that. I tend to stay away from anything that decreases it, just because, especially when you start getting into quantanium rocks and some of the tier 1 rocks, they can actually start to get some pretty high instabilities. And if it's jumping around, it could end up in the red real easily. It's also the most expensive laser at 100K. This is actually probably, this is what I use right here all the time. It's a good all-around laser. Works very well. We can actually go back to the calculator and we can see it in action. So here's the arbor. 1890 power, plus 25% resistance, less instability, bigger charge window, reduce the inert. We go away from that. We go with a Hofstede. We can see now we've got better power. We got a higher minimum power. Our range is reduced a little bit. Resistance is still minus 30. We increased our instability a little bit, but our charge rate is higher and our charge window is higher. And it's only 12,750. Now, if I actually take and I add in a saber with this, well, now we've actually got a bigger charge window and we've got better resistance reduction, but at the cost of a little more instability. So, I mean, it works in that respect. So, without the saber, the other thing that's nice about it is when it's not a rented prospector, you can add modules. So, in the case of the Hofstede, I like to use the Riger C3. So, that actually jumps my power up considerably. We go from what, roughly about 2100 up to now 2600. We actually increase our charge rate. Optimal charge window is still good. And our instability is brought back down. Wait a minute. Let's see. Are we not actually registering properly here? There we go. So there's really not much to not like about the Riger. Now, if you are going to go with one of these others, and what I would say is basically you should actually try what works best for you. What you can do is you can actually play around in here until you get the numbers you want to see, and then theoretically you could go out and you could buy those modules, go buy the lasers and so forth. Even if you just wanted to start with just a straight arbor, you can. You can actually take and put a Riger C3 with that, or a Focus, or any of these other ones. And you'll see that even with just the Riger C3, it's going to bring that arbor up to closer to where the other ones are. It actually ends up being a little higher than the Hofstede and all them without any modifiers. Now, if we actually engage the saber here and we use that on a rock, now we've actually eliminated any of the negatives. So what I would recommend, you can actually go in here and you can look at the modules. You can see what they can do. Everything from the passives up here at the top. Favorites typically end up being like the Surge and the Stampede because they don't cost a lot, but they actually do a lot. You figure the Surge gives you higher laser power for a short period of time. The Stampede actually gives you a little higher power, but it also actually helps your charge rate a little bit more. So, just a quick little thing on what you can do to actually set up your prospectors without actually having to go out and buy this stuff and just try it. So you can set it up in here, see what your results are going to be. So for instance, if I want to try the Helix, look at that charge window going down. Now if I actually take and I put a Focus 3 on here, that's going to bring, well, it should bring, yep, there you go. It brought that optimal charge window down, but it brought the overcharge up. Now if I take and I throw a Riger C3 on there with it as well, Now I'm back up because the focus actually brought the power down some. So now the focus or the Riker brings it back up some more. And you can even do it in different orders. I mean, for instance, you can actually add the Riker C3 first. And then throw the focus 3 on. So, and depending on the order, typically that's how it's going to work on the ship for the most part. So it reduces that charge window reduction a lot. And then, of course, you can actually throw that on there as well. So, again, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them for me below. But I wanted to share this so you can actually see partly how I actually configure mine. And then also, which this would be my normal setup right here. It's not actually doing it all the time. So let's see here. There we go. Sometimes just making a change helps. So this would be my normal setup right here that I use. Cost me that much. You can actually go in here. And you can actually add other stuff to it. You can't use but one gadget at a time. And then obviously you can go in here. You can actually see gadgets and what they do, all the different ones. You can see the passive modules and what they do. Passive means that you can actually use it over and over and over again. And then we actually have the active modules. These are the ones that are limited number of uses. Basically, you engage them using Alt F1 or Alt 1, Alt 2, Alt 3, depending on what slot they're in. And then they'll run for their set amount of time, and then they'll stop running and you lose a charge. And then also, obviously, over here, you can actually see where to buy them. Lasers are the same way. You can go in here, and you can actually see what all of them are together. So you can actually compare them, and then you can actually find which locations you can buy them at. And then the nice thing, like I said about it, is you can actually change your settings in the calculator, and then you can actually save it and give it a name. All right, so that pretty much covers this episode of how to outfit your prospector, or at least how to see it. So again, if you have any questions, let me know. I'll actually leave the link to Regolith in the description, so you can get to it if you want. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.